right, let's finish this guy up. So only a little bit left. We've just got to take from what's in the model and use that to actually update the view. So what we want to do is we want to just take out anywhere we printed the game, and instead we're just going to make a function that's just called update view. We don't need to pass the game object into it because it'll already have it. It's a class variable, instance variable, I should say. So we're going to call update view in the places where we used to just print it, and we're going to create a new function for update view. There's really only two tasks that need to happen inside update view. So it needs to update the game state label, and then it also needs to update the buttons. Right? So there's really only two tasks. In a more complex app, you might have something more than just a single function you call, but I mean, no reason to make it harder than it is. We're just going to do these things. So when we're updating the game state label, as it certainly could be an iPhone app, and if it's an iPhone app, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the game state raw value. If you remember from when we created the game, I'm sure you don't, there's a game state variable with of type game state, and it has a raw value that we can just print. So if it was an iPhone app, we could do this, and we could actually test this real quick, because it has a label that's on the screen. So you can see it switches from X's turn and O's turn, and then if I click there, X wins the game. That wouldn't do you much good on iPad because it doesn't use a label. It actually uses a different system. It uses a game state navbar. The way this one works is you grab the top item, and then on the top item there's a thing called the title, and you can set it the same way. And so you set its raw value. And with that, you could actually run it on an iPad. I'll just pick an iPad 2. And I'm just kind of always picking the smallest devices just so that it fits on my screen better. And you can see that updates it in the navbar. Note that that actually works fine. So I'm actually setting both of them, and there's really no reason to do more than that. But if it just kind of like fundamentally bothers you, you could definitely actually use kind of this user interface idiom thing that we did before, and only set the appropriate one. iOS is pretty good about silently doing nothing, so you don't really have to do this. But what the heck, I will. So if it's an iPhone, do that, and then if it's an iPad, what I want to do is that right there. You can also kind of highlight and hit Control-I to kind of update things. Also, if you wanted your code to be shorter, you could get rid of this word, user interface idiom. I guess that didn't really help much, so I'll go ahead and do this and scoot myself over. So here you can see that if it's iPhone, then it's a label and use the label. If it's not an iPhone, it must be an iPad. Maybe someday there'll be another option, but right now those are the only two. And we can play TicTacToe with just the string. So you can see that that works just like it did before, and now it's only setting one or the other. Great. So that actually takes care of the game state. That was pretty easy. The only other thing we need to do is we need to update the buttons. So there's going to be some prep work we're going to do, but essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the game board button collection, and we're going to actually make a choice based on what the game state is saying. So we're going to do a switch statement. And so we've got a game object, and he's got a game board. And what we want out of the game board is we want the buttons tag. And we're going to use that to decide, is it none? And if it's none, we're going to do something. I'm just going to write break for now, just as a placeholder. If it's O, we'll do something different. I'll put the placeholder break in. And then if it's X, we're going to do something different as well. Oops, looks like I forgot my colon on that guy. So what we want to do is we want to actually update the images that are on the button depending on the state that it's in. It turns out that the none state is easy. We're just going to say set image, and then we're going to pass it in an image. So the image for when there's nothing on there is nil. Oops, it auto-completed wrong there. Nil. And then for UI control state, there's a lot of UI control states. You can type it out and hit dot to kind of see all of them. But we just want normal. And then if there's nothing else set, normal will work for pressed, depressed, and other things. And like always, if you want to, you can get rid of this word. So that's what we're going to do for X and O, except for they're going to actually have an image. Now, the image might be the iPhone image or it might be the iPad image. So we're actually going to make a couple constants just to kind of help us out. So I'm just going to kind of come up to the top here. I'm going to make a constant for the X image. And what the X image is going to be is it's going to be, similar to what we did with the board. So I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to copy what the board did. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing and paste it right there. So it's going to look at the device. What the heck? I'll make it only say phone in there. And then it's going to get an image as appropriate. It's either going to get the iPhone X, I believe was the name, or the iPad X. And then the O is going to do the same thing. So instead of X image, I'll call it O image. And instead of that being the file name, I'll add an O, and I'll add an O. I want to confirm those file names real quick, and I can see that, yep, they're called iPad X, iPad O. So I should be all set on those guys. So really all I want to do below is I just want to set it to be the X image or the O image, and then by having a constant up here, it'll take care of the iPad or iPhone successfully for me. So I'm just going to copy what nil did and get rid of my break statement. And for O, I'm just going to say O image. And then for X, I'm going to say X image. If this all works, there's a good chance we're done. So let's try it out on both and see if we're happy with what we've got going on. So I'm going to try it on an iPad 2 first, and sure enough, it looks like things are going good. I can click on these things. I can also rotate the screen and just kind of make sure everything's looking good. So X with the block, nice work there. And you can try different things in your model. So there was an O win. That was kind of an accident, to be honest. But everything looked great on iPad. So let's go ahead and check it out on iPhone. What the heck, I'll use an iPhone 6 Plus. Bought myself an iPhone 6 Plus the other day. Pretty exciting. And sure enough, even at 50%, the iPhone 6 Plus doesn't really fit on here. What we did with its view is we let the images be a little smaller. If you didn't like this, I mean, there are different ways to do it, but this is the correct for what I wanted to do. So it kind of takes up the whole space with the board, but to be honest, the images themselves of the X's and O's didn't really get any bigger. But hopefully it works just like that. If you were to rotate it, it looks a little ridiculous on the simulator, but it will look fine in your hand, right? So there's an X win right down the middle. And I think we are done with this guy. So the real goal was just to kind of get you some experience seeing how model, view, and controller play together nicely. You can see that we did the model last time. We did a whole bunch for the view, and they were pretty independent. And then the controller is kind of the glue that brings them together. But all the code is not in the controller, right? It's just kind of the glue that puts it in the middle. All right, assuming you're taking this class for credit, you'll have to go find this project, zip it up, and submit it on Moodle. Come back next time, and we'll talk about what's going to happen on the lab. All right, see you then.